Hi everyone, welcome back to another episode of AgogeTV with me, your host Phil Leonard.
And I'm your host, Josh Summersgill.
On today's podcast, we have madz.harris. We met Mads on our CrossFit Level 1 way back when.
5 years ago.
He's nearly 5 years.
5 years ago, yeah.
Long time. Back then, she was pursuing an ambition to open a box, which I know she has since opened. She is also extremely competitive, both in weightlifting and in CrossFit, competing at strength in depth and finishing 7th in the in the UK for the Open. So we'll get a bit more into that, and I'll let Mads explain a little bit more. So, Mads, first thing first. How was competing in a mega strong field at strength in depth? And what's the main differences you find between competing at like a CrossFit event and a weightlifting event?
Okay, strength in depth was really cool. The rowing was interesting. I think I was so worried about the rowing event, I kind of forgot about everything else, which was nice in a way. So when I was there, I could just sort of take each workout as it came, and the rowing wasn't actually as bad as I thought. I didn't fall in, but we didn't know we were going to have someone in the boat with us to make sure we didn't fall in. So that was really good. It was really nice to be part of the first ever rowing WOD in a sanctioned event, and I can only assume it's probably going to come up again and maybe be there in the games. And competing against Matt Fraser was pretty cool. Yeah. He zoomed past me on the run. I tried to keep up with him for a little bit, but it's Matt Fraser, isn't it? And the main difference between CrossFit and weightlifting competitions, I think I find CrossFit more stressful than weightlifting. Everyone's like, oh, but in weightlifting, people are you've just everyone's on you, you make the lift or you don't. But I feel like people expect you to maybe fail a lift sometimes, whereas in CrossFit, if it's just you going on the floor, I find it a little bit more stressful than I do weightlifting. And I've taken a bit of a sort of backbench on the weightlifting. I'm trying to concentrate on CrossFit for now, and as we talk a bit more, I'll probably talk more about it, but I think I'm gonna go all out for team and really try and push to get a game spot for the teams. I've done individual stuff this year, and now I'm gonna go for the team side of things.
Yeah, cool. So we'll get into that in a second, because I'm interested on how your training is at the moment and stuff like that. One thing you don't know though was I was actually sat in the crowd at Strength in Depth, and was sort of like, I know her. I was like, and I was on the opposite side of the floor in the VIP section, and you sort of come up line, and I'm like sat there, and I'm like, Josh, I'm like. Is Mads who we did our level 1 with competing at strength in depth? And he was like, no, I didn't. And it was only I think it was the second day. I was like, no way. So I didn't realise you'd made it there and stuff like that. And it was really cool when I
That's cool.
It was really cool when I realised it was you, because I remember you telling me you wasn't very good at CrossFit when we met on the strength on the one. So 5 years later, you're playing.
Yeah, a lot can happen in 5 years.
Yeah, definitely.
So, out of curiosity as well, did you find a big difference between actually rowing on the water and being on like a concept too?
And I went. So they announced that there's going to be rowing in December. Rang up loads of rowing clubs. Everywhere's shut because it's the winter. The water's too dangerous. I was like, brilliant. What am I going to do? And I went to a rowing coach, and he was like, right, we're going to have to get on an erg and try and mimic it. And it was completely different on an erg. Right. It was like, what are you doing? Bending your legs? Why are you pulling the handles to your chest? And I was like, oh my God, I don't even know how to row on an erg. I don't know what I'm going to do in the water. And then I don't know if you know Cam Nichols. He's a big rowing coach, and he organised the rowing event at Strength in Depth and actually got me out on the water. It's completely different. If you just get clean strokes in the water, you're going to do well. It's nothing to do with being the most powerful athlete or the best athlete on the concept too. He said there's going to be a lot of people out there who are absolute powerhouses who, if they can't do the skill on the water, it's not going to matter. You can go like crazy, bat out of hell on the water, and if you don't know what you're doing, you're just going to be stuck. So I actually came 14th because I had a few tips off those few rowing coaches, which is really good. And I was nowhere near like the heaviest or most powerful athlete in the field. No way.
Right. Wow.
To be fair, credit to Cam. Like, obviously, I was down at strength in depth, and I thought it was really good the way he organised that, because I know he was heavily involved. And he did a really good job of sort of balancing it out and making sure it was a level playing field for everybody. Which
fair play. Yeah, the judges actually had so we all had different judges in the boat, and they all got weighed before the event, and they'd have to wear weighted vests and sandbags in their boat. So
Right.
we were all pulling the same weight. So if one judge weighed 100 kilos and one weighed 70, they'd have a 30 kilo sandbag in with them. So we all pulled exactly the same weight, it was really well thought out. And to be honest, when it was first announced, I kicked off and threw my toys out the pram. I was commenting all the posts like, this is ridiculous. How can you get the athletes to do something like this? And then fair play to Cam Nichols. He pulled it off really well. And in the end, I was like, oh, I'm sorry. If I was horrible at the start, it was actually really good.
But I think, like you say as well, I think it actually becomes a better test than getting you on a C2.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Good known, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. It was whoever could stay calm and like just keep their head on, basically. If you had I saw a few girls, bless them, have a little bit of, as soon as you panicked, then you're stuffed, really. It was nothing to do with how big or powerful you are.
Yeah, whereas if you're on the C2, then obviously.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Sounds like a bit of me. This I might give it a go. All
Really?
5 of me. Sodgy C2s. I'm getting in the water.
I'll hold you to that, Josh.
Yeah, I want to see you rowing.
I expect a 500 metre row.
Right.
Or more.
I will make a note. Once I'm out of the house, it's going to happen.
So, I know you mentioned that you're aiming to go team for the games. Just before we get into that, obviously, I was curious as to how you would differ your training going from CrossFit to weightlifting. At different times of the season, and then obviously you can maybe follow that on with how your training is going to differ now that you're aiming for a team spot as opposed to an individual spot.
Yeah, so before the last Open, really, so before the 2020 Open, I competed in both CrossFit and weightlifting. Since then I haven't really done much weightlifting. I've always predominantly done CrossFit, and obviously weightlifting is a big part of that. So I've sort of just done my CrossFit weightlifting and used that for my weightlifting competitions. The biggest difference is cutting for a weight class. Obviously in CrossFit, you don't have to cut, so I can train more. When I've got a weightlifting competition coming up, I have to really scale back on how much I'm training if I'm trying to cut into a weight class as well, because I'm just not taking on like the fuel and the calories to be able to do as much CrossFit as I'd like. So I used to sort of prioritize my weightlifting, do that as my first session of the day when I'm feeling fresh, and then I might do some some steady state conditioning at the end if I'm competing for weightlifting. CrossFit is just I'm on the athlete program. I work closely with Mike Katris. He gives me my programming.
Okay.
And I have 2 sessions a day. And usually the day starts with a bit of weightlifting, followed by some gymnastic skill and a WOD, and then a long conditioning session in the afternoon, both of which are about 2 hours long. So I end up doing about 4 hours of training. I rest on a Thursday and a Sunday, and I keep that the same. Then just for competition, we'll mimic competition. So I'll be doing really high intensity WODs over a few days. So I can sort of get my body used to that. In terms of going from individual to team, obviously I'm training individually at the moment. There's no one else really to train with. But I've just competed in the European Champs, and that's when I sort of spoke to the athlete program and Mike Katris and that, and they're like, will you be our 4th girl? I know they've had trouble with finding the final team member. They've had Mike Katris, Alec Harwood and Charlotte Spence for a while. Charlotte Spence came 2nd in the UK. And so I finally, just as we got that arranged, we planned to go to Lowlands, Egypt, Madrid, potentially the French Throwdown, but obviously they've all just been well, postponed or cancelled. Hopefully, maybe Egypt will still be on.
Right.
But the plan was to train about once a week, once a fortnight, all 4 of us together. Obviously, that hasn't happened. But I've just been given a shit ton of sandbag stuff to mimic being on a worm, and it's horrible.
That's all right.
That's just mean that. That's
Yeah.
no, that's
It's not the same. Worms are easier than a sandbag.
To be honest, I was saying this, like, we were talking to somebody about the worms the other day. I think it was Loz Calvert, and she was saying how different the worms were and how much heavier the rogue worms were to like the ones that we're used to over here. And it's like I hate those. I hate the worms that we use, so I don't want to get anywhere near one of those rogue ones.
The worst thing's a saggy worm. The saggy worms are the worst.
I think we can. I think we'll all agree with that.
You want a nice hard worm.
I like it. So, moving swiftly on. You said that your coach, obviously you get your programming from the athlete program, and you're now planning on being their fourth team member. You said that is it your boyfriend or husband, fiance?
Boyfriend. Don't
sorry,
say husband.
Is he in the background? Have I just got him?
Yeah, he's here.
Sorry, Owen.
Dropped a minute.
I'm always curious how you manage like having your significant other as a coach. I know it's one of the rules at our gym, where we just don't coach our other halves because it always ends badly.
Doesn't work. Like, I tried doing some handstand push-up techniques, like not yesterday, the day before, and she's basically told me to fuck off. I'm like, well, I'm trying to help you. I'm like, do you want my help or not? She's like, well, not really. No. I'm like,
that happens to us. Yeah, I think the F word and C words thrown around multiple times in our training sessions. So yeah, I get my programming through from Mike, and from the athlete program. Before, you used to do my programming as well. I think it's actually saved us a few arguments that I get my program from someone else, and then you just watch me throughout sessions. If you remember.
Yeah. So when I was already CrossFitting when I met Mads, and she was essentially training for triathlon. So eventually she fractured her hip training for triathlon, and then I eventually then, when she had to take a little sabbatical from the running, that's how I managed to convince her to start CrossFit. So for the first probably 6 years of the CrossFit and weightlifting she did, I programmed for her, I coached for her, and that was the only relationship with a coach that she ever knew. That was the only CrossFit she'd ever done. As she started to get probably more serious with it, so going to sanctionals and looking at taking it a little bit more seriously, I think the idea of going outsourcing the programming, as well as saving us a lot of hassle in the relationship side of things, it's helped a lot in terms of taking the pressure off both us as business owners, but her as an athlete and me as a coach as well. So she'll get the program kind of delivered from Mike, and then I'll work with her on site. Otherwise, she'd just be like remotely programmed for, and she'd send videos back and forth. But I obviously work quite closely with Mike as well, so that I can kind of relay anything that she needs live there and then in terms of feedback. So it works quite nicely. We still have some.
So we don't argue that much.
Yeah, we still have some words, but
no, it's
but
pretty
yeah,
cool.
it works. It works well.
It's pretty cool that you managed to sort of develop that relationship with another coach there. You can sort of trust him and make sure that he's got the right things coming Mads' way, and then obviously he can rely on you to make, because like I get programmed remotely, and I know that like I'll still turn around to Josh and be like, what am I doing wrong here? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So as good as it is to have somebody there doing both, do you know what I mean? It's nice to have another set of eyes on you, and I'm sure.
I agree with that. I think like you can always, regardless of who's doing your programming, I think having that set of eyes on you is absolutely priceless, isn't it?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So obviously, like for yourself, lad, even though you're getting programming done by the athlete program, obviously with Owen still there watching you and keeping an eye on you, I think.
Oh, yeah, I mean, if I get something that I hate, like come up, like my weakness come up, so a shit ton of muscle ups, there's always the danger of me just being like really lazy with it. And if someone else is there and saying, look, you've got to do it, and your eyes on you all the time, it makes me do it.
Yeah.
So
you get programmed to do like the standard, for example. You can't have a go at Owen because it's not his fault.
yeah.
Yeah, we did that.
Oh, man, you got to do it. It's not my fault, but you've got to do it, you know.
We did it the week before Sid together. And the other thing is, it's really good because he'll do some of it with me. So I think the other thing is, at sort of the level that I'm at, obviously we've got some competitive members and some really great fit members at the gym, but I think sometimes I can get really bogged down with just doing all this like really intense stuff on my own. So I wrote Owen into doing it, and we're just someone to beat. We did the standard together just before Sid.
So, sorry, Madz, just quickly go through what the standard is, just for anybody that doesn't know what.
What was it? 30 clean and jerks, 30 muscle ups, 30 snatches. So it was Grace, 30 muscle ups, then Isabel. It was all well and good in training. And then when it came to it, they had these, not that I'm blaming it on the rings, but I'm going to blame it on the rings. They were really, really high, and we were like, all the girls were like, oh my God, can we have some boxes to jump up there, or plates? And the judges said no. So we were kind of, the JPEGs, so we were hanging, trying to swinging around on the rings, and that was all a bit crap. I think my biggest mistake though was I was in one of the first heats and I went out like touch and go on Grace, and I watched Matt Fraser about half an hour later, and he went singles. I was like, when the fittest man on earth starts with singles, you've probably gone wrong somewhere. But that was it. Exactly, yeah. He's doing it wrong, clearly.
To be fair, one of my favourite moments from Strength in Depth was and you probably remember it, was when he come out and did those 10 touch and go cleans.
Yeah.
Going, way! And then he got to the next bar and just did a single, and everyone went, oh.
Yeah, they booed at him, not touch and going like 120 kilos or something, yeah.
How dare you not touch and go all of those barbells?
Yeah.
It was brilliant. So, you guys own CrossFit Aylesbury? Is that right? Yeah. Mm-hmm. One of my questions as well is, and something I find interesting is, like, I know there's some coaches out there that say, and obviously I'm not one of them because I follow a different programming to my box, but that say that you should follow your gym's programming. So how, as leaders in your sort of community, and how do you sort of get that across to your members that you've got like slightly different goals to them, and maybe how would, and this is maybe more Owen's question, how would you program differently for your members as to Mads, if that makes sense?
Do you want to go first, and then I'll?
I think from looking at it from a coach's / athlete's point of view, where Maddie's obviously following the athlete program, and she's delivering the CrossFit Aylesbury program, so she coaches for us, and we've got members to look after. It's a difficult balance. Or most of our coaches, they do things outside of our classes, which is fine. But a lot of them, or if not all of them, actually still get involved with classes. Yeah. So even though Maddie does a lot of the athlete program stuff, she will do quite a few of our class WODs throughout the week. So having that, and she did it as well for the first 5 or 6 years when I was programming for her, I would program including the class workouts. Yeah. So she'd still do that. So then when your members have got all of the coaches doing the classes at some point, then it gives them that kind of confidence in the program that you're delivering. I think in terms of differing between like an athlete like Maddie who's going for sanctionals and going for higher level events, and like general population, a lot of it we do the same. The stuff that probably differs is when Maddie gets closer to a competition and we're working on more specific things. Yeah. So like going into strength and depth, and we knew the rowing was coming up. Obviously, we're not going to say to our members, go and find a rowing coach and that kind of thing. Same with when she went to the Norwegian Championships. There was a snow run. So we did some mountain runs to prepare for that with Mike down in South Wales. So like the general like GPP, general physical preparedness side of things is really similar. Yeah. We'll have at the box with the CrossFit Aylesbury programming, we'll have longer steady state cardio days. We'll have just heavy days and we'll have Metcon based days as well. And that's probably the same with Maddie's training too. For a large portion of the season, it's just going into competitions a little closer to those events where things will get more specific and more competition based. The other thing is just volume, really. Yeah. So Maddie's in a position where she's gone through. She's got quite a high training age now. She's been training for quite a long time. So she's adapted to a certain amount of volume, and she's able to do certain workouts as long as she recovers, sleeps, eats appropriately in between. And for 99% of our population, of our gym members, they just want to get a little bit fitter, get a little bit stronger, and essentially look better naked. Yes. So for those guys, it's just about giving them an optimal volume throughout the course of a week, so that they keep away from any injuries, but they're also progressing towards their goals. Yeah. So I think it's all a balancing act, but it can be done. Yeah.
And in terms of, like you say, the coach is following something different to what's in the box. I do jump in on some of the box workouts that we program, so like members see me doing it with them. But a lot of the members like know the competitions that I'm going for, or when I was in the Open and sort of placing consistently top 10, they get really excited about it. So they're more than happy. They was like, oh, what training are you doing? If I'm doing something in the other section of the gym, because they want to see me they want to see me at those comps as well, which is really nice. So they're not funny about it. They know what I'm aiming to do. And like Owen said, their goals are very different to mine. And because of that, they'll just cheer me on if I'm doing something in the corner most of the time, don't they?
Yeah. No, it's really cool. It's just something I find interesting to like how different boxes find that balancing act, because obviously we've got a couple of people that are trying to be competitive, and obviously you want to give them as much as you can, and then but obviously you still want them to be part of the community. It's always, like I say, it's always a difficult balancing act to get. I think, like I say, that it's the Greg Glassman quote that me and Josh butcher every time. What is it?
Every time.
Every time. With differing need, not in kind, or something like that.
Yeah.
What is it?
Yeah, it's like Olympians and our grandparents. Yes.
Come on, say it, Owen.
No pressure.
I'm gonna have to look it up now. So you made me second guess myself.
We had this
conversation
today, but like
their needs differing kind, but not in. I can't remember. I'm gonna look it up now. It's annoying me.
Yeah. If you find it, because I couldn't find it the other day. If you find it, let us know and we'll get it out there.
We're writing down on my wall. Don't forget it.
Yeah, I'm gonna get it tattooed on me somewhere just to make sure I don't forget it. We've had this conversation like a couple of times, and it's really good that we hear the same things.
You got it.
You've
got it.
Yeah. So the Greg Glassman quote is: "Our understanding is that the needs of Olympic athletes and our grandparents differ by degree, but not kind."
By degree, not kind.
That's where we were getting.
He's writing it down.
Yeah. By degree, not kind. There we go.
I want you to say that to me every morning, Josh. No, awesome. Thanks, Owen. That was really good. We genuinely, we've had this conversation with so many people, and it's good to hear that the community as a whole kind of agree on it. And the people that don't agree on it are the odd ones out as such. Most people are doing the right things for the right reasons. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's not. Yeah. So the more people we talk to, them like you say, have the same sort of opinion of the competitive aspect of CrossFit to the GPP side of CrossFit as such.
Yeah, I think like as CrossFit grows, and as the pool of people who do CrossFit grows and the gyms grow and stuff like that, then you're always going to get a wider range of kind of theories and principles that people kind of preach. But I think for most people, like when you look back at the foundation of what Glassman was trying to do, I think it's like generally accepted. I think there's probably, now that CrossFit's developed into a slightly older sport, slightly more professional sport now, there's probably a little bit more sports science behind it, and I think people are realizing that. I do think like probably 5-10 years ago when I started, everything was like intensity, and it was like how hard can you go and that kind of thing, and then it was volume and people getting all volume. But now I think people are taking a more scientific approach to their training and their recovery as well. But yeah, I think like a simple quote like that still kind of transcends whether you're an elite level athlete or whether you're just walking into a CrossFit gym for the first time trying to lose a bit of weight or whatever it might be.
Yeah, 100% agreed. So we've got, we'll ask both of you the questions because I think it'd be interesting to get both of your answers. We've got some fun questions to finish with.
Okay.
And we'll do 3 or 4 depending on timing. So the first one that I always like to get off everyone is a book or film recommendation. So book or film recommendation that everyone should read/watch.
You go first.
Me go first?
Yeah.
I'm going to go for a book. I'm going to go for how to win friends and influence people.
Josh is going to pull it off his shelf right now, is it?
No, I've actually not got it.
You're joking.
I know. They're kind of easy.
Yeah, I think when I started, or when we first opened the business, I think I
read this.
I struggled with dealing with like a wide variety of personalities, I guess. We both come from a teaching background, so that was useful. But having to deal with people with lots of different principles, lots of different theories, lots of different kind of levels of motivation, whether they be intrinsic or extrinsic, I think I read that book and a few others as well in that area. But yeah, that book helped me out a little bit when first starting on the business side of things, and also just the dealing with people and getting the most out of people.
Yeah, when I first read that book, I was still working in I was working for an IT company, and it made a massive difference to just how I dealt with people. Like, I hated everyone in my office. So hopefully none of them are listening to this, but I hated every one of them. And I think I just sat there showing it for a bit. Like, I was just like, yeah, I hate you all, so what?
You don't hide emotions very well.
That's what you were like.
Yeah. And then I read the book and was like, oh, okay. And it basically made a massive difference to how I dealt with everyone there. And then I essentially took that into opening the gym.
Now he knows he looks miserable. He's aware of it.
Yeah. Now when I'm fuming and everybody knows it, everyone's just like, but I think I think I'm still better at communicating with people since reading that book for sure. And when I have to be nice, like most people know me now. So if I'm like people at the gym know that I'm the grumpy one as such. When I've got Josh is always impressed when I've got to write a nice email to somebody. He's like,
that's like you though. You're the grumpy one. I'm good cop. He's bad cop in the gym.
Yeah. Definitely. Yeah. I'm bad cop. He's good cop.
And we found it obviously in a gym like you two will have done the same thing. You've got to have that. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. So it works.
I think
it does work. Yeah.
I kind of envy people that. Sorry, not envy. I kind of feel bad for people who don't have 2 people who are in charge at the gym, because I couldn't wear both hats all the time. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I say, there's days I go in and I wouldn't change what I do for the world, but I'm not the smiley, happy, shiny person that people want me to be.
You're only human though. That's how it works, isn't it?
It's hard. I think when people pay for a service, they don't necessarily see the human side of things. They expect a level of service, and I think that's only right. We're really lucky that we've got quite a few coaches who bring lots of different things to the table and can connect with people in different ways. Yeah. So we've got masters coaches who are really high level masters, and they're of a older people who come in and they connect with those, and we've got people who are like on the harsher end of things like myself, and there are people who are more softly spoken. But we're really lucky in that sense to have a good coaching team at Aylesbury.
Feel like me and you are getting with the coaching. It sound very similar. So awesome, Mads. It can be a film or a book.
I haven't got a specific recommendation. I'm the complete opposite to Owen when it comes to reading. I love like a crime novel or something that I know. Look at him, he hates it. But for me, it's just something to completely switch off with. You like reading sort of biographies and stuff that he can relate to on day-to-day life, whereas I'm just like, I can't say a specific one. I read at least a book a week, don't I? Like when I'm resting in between training, I'll just read a novel or something completely.
Read a lot, but it's just useless.
Yeah, it's true. Just to switch off though, yeah.
Again, I get like I don't know if you can see in the background. That's my bookcase back there, and I've got I'm working my way through every single Lee Child's book that's ever been.
Yeah, see, I love that. Yeah, so, that's the sort of thing I'd read. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm the opposite. Yeah. I've got over 100 books. Not one of them is not real, should we say?
I've got
that's what Owen's like.
I can't read fiction.
We're completely opposite.
I feel you, Owen. With you, bro. You gotta read. You gotta learn something from it.
If I lean this way, you've got my Lee Child's book. If I lean that way, you can see like my precision nutrition coursework and my Quinn Hennock stuff and all that. So yeah, cool, amazing. Right, next question. This is my new favourite one. What is your favourite swear word?
In training, mine's probably is this is shit.
This is shit. Yeah.
This is shit. I literally say that like a good 10 times. You can go for yours.
I don't think I should say mine. I dropped the C-bomb far more. Let's just say people who spend time around me are now just desensitized.
Yeah. If you're sensitive, that kind of thing, don't come and train with Owen.
Yeah, no, you'd be all right. You'd be all right in our gym, don't worry.
I think every piece of equipment and person that's come close enough to you has probably had the C-bomb dropped on them at some point. Yeah.
I completely understand.
At least we're in good company.
Okay, I've got two more questions. One of them, other than CrossFit, if you could do a sport or like do what you're doing within the sport currently, what sport would it be? So, for example, I'd love to be more involved with rugby. Like I played rugby when I was younger. What would you guys do?
Well, before CrossFit, I was sort of a swimmer, and I was sort of working up towards national level. And then, like Owen said, I went to triathlon, and then I got an injury which took me to CrossFit. So probably, I guess I'd probably go back down the triathlon route. I like long, grueling workouts, so that's more my kind of thing. What about you?
For me, it'd be rugby. So I've played rugby since I was a kid, and that was how I found CrossFit. So I originally started doing the CrossFit football stuff from John Wellborn, which I think is now like Power Athlete HQ or something.
Yeah, it is.
I started doing that kind of stuff about 10 years ago, just in like off-season and pre-season work through rugby.
Yeah.
And then when we were at university, worked with like the rugby teams on their strength and conditioning side of things. Right. So it'd be in the realm of rugby for sure.
Yeah, swimming and rugby for us.
Yeah, amazing. I like it. So this one's the one that trips everybody up. It's always a tough one. So you've got basically 24 hours to learn everything you can from one person, and they can be dead or alive. Who would you sit down with and learn everything you could from?
Oh.
I think Mads has to answer first because she keeps palming it off onto Owen.
Owen wants me to say Owen. I'm not going to.
Well played.
I can learn everything. That's a really hard question.
Yeah, get to everybody. And we've had some real good ones.
Everything you know, not just CrossFit or training.
Just as much as you can get out of that person, and it can be anything you want to know.
I think given the broad spectrum of life experiences that he had, I'd probably go with someone like Muhammad Ali.
Okay.
Given like the oppression he faced, the political side of things, and also obviously he was an elite sports person as well. Another good one, I think, probably for the same kind of reasons, would be Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Yeah.
Again, like started in the Austrian military, had to like hide out and do all his bodybuilding training in secret, and then traveled to the States, did his movie career, and then gone into politics as well. So I think I think it'd be Schwarzenegger or Muhammad Ali.
I like it. It's a good
You'll
one.
probably say something far less insightful now.
Yeah, no, that's yeah. I don't know. I'd probably go, like you've kind of touched on people that are in sport. I suppose I'd go someone who's completely in a different field or area. I don't know. I'm trying to think.
It doesn't have to be to do with sport.
Yeah.
No, I know, but it's so hard to think outside of it when it's all I'm thinking about.
I always end up going towards sport. Like recently, I've changed my answer to this question just because I've been looking into stuff to do with interviewing for podcasts.
Yeah.
So the minute I'd sit down with somebody different than I probably originally went for. I think Josh went for Will Smith the first time, didn't you?
Oh, Will Smith's a good one.
On the podcast side of things, and given all the people that he's spoken to and learned from, Joe Rogan would be
Okay.
such a good one.
No, Louis
My answer
Theroux.
was Tim Ferriss.
I'd go Louis Theroux.
Right.
I bet he's cool. Yeah. He'd have some good things to say, some good stories. Yeah.
Joe Exotic, straight up.
Tiger King.
Carol fucking Baskin.
That bitch.
Okay, brilliant. So Mads, I'm not sure whether you've got any sponsors or anything that you want to shout out to, or if not, where can people find you, and if they want to know more? Same for you, Owen, and I'll link everybody up in the show notes.
Yeah, so we obviously work with the AgogeTV. That's our main one, and then on the nutrition side of things, Kratos Nutrition and We Dominate.
Yeah.
And then just shout out, I guess, CrossFit Aylesbury and
Awesome.
everyone at CrossFit Aylesbury, because they're supporting us. That's why we're where we are.
Yeah. I was going to say, definitely the biggest thank you and the biggest shout out will go to our community at CrossFit Aylesbury and Aylesbury Weightlifting Club. You've got Hybryd who work with you as well.
Yeah, Hybryd clothing.
Yeah, so Hybryd do your clothing, the athlete program do all your programming, and then nutrition.
Kratos
and
We Dominate.
We Dominate. If you want to follow Mads and just get like CrossFit and workout and like sanctional experience overload, do that on @madz.harris.
Yeah.
If you want to follow someone who's more insightful and absolutely hilarious, you can catch me on @CFAY_Owen.
I'm going to go and follow you right now.
Me
No
too.
pressure. Yeah.
Don't follow Mads, I'm going to follow you, Owen.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes. I need those followers. I need them.
That's him just trying to get more followers than me now.
That's it.
Brilliant.
Brilliant.
So I'll take them down from you at the end. So just stay on for a couple of minutes, and I'll get all the details off you so that I can put them in the show notes for people, especially like any sponsors or anything like that. I'll make sure that we hook people up to those. So thank you very much for being on today, guys. That was really fun, and I think people find it particularly interesting because you got some really good experience in the sport. Especially from strength in depth. Did you not? Going back to me and Josh were debating. You competed at the French Throwdown as well, didn't you?
Yeah, French Throwdown, and then the Norwegian Championships as well. And I got at Sid, I got my first selfie, didn't I, from fans?
Right.
Fans asking for selfies. That was like, I've made it in CrossFit. Someone wants a selfie with me. Yeah, I did. Yeah, I did French in Norway as well, and then obviously I have no idea what's coming next with everything that's going on.
Cool, amazing. So like I say, guys, thank you very much for both of you for jumping on today's podcast. Like I say, really beneficial for people. I think coaches will take a lot from it, as well as people who are just interested in what happens on the higher end of the sport. So guys, before I let everybody go today, I just want to thank everybody for jumping in. I want to thank the NHS as per usual, and all the key workers that are still working. We wouldn't be able to do these podcasts if it wasn't for everybody, the whole COVID-19 that's going on, and we really appreciate everybody's hard work. And we also, again, really appreciate all our members that are still supporting us in this time, all legends, as well as I'll give a shout out to the guys at CrossFit Aylesbury, who I'm assuming are sticking by you guys in the rough times.
Fantastic.
Like, subscribe, share, comment, review. We really appreciate every comment, every share. That's how we get it out there. We don't sponsor these podcasts. We do them purely for fun and to keep you guys entertained during this time. So, like I say, please post and share and give us a 5-star review on iTunes if possible. Thank you very much, guys, and I'll see you all again. Peace.